Welcome, my ever-evolving human beings of the internet. This is a discussion between myself and one of my oldest, dearest friends, Killian. He is an artist, a musician, and now a coder. He has inspired me both as a creative and just as a human being. And in this conversation, we will discuss the rise and fall of cryptocurrencies and NFTs, the ever-changing landscape of creativity in the world and online, and what artificial intelligence may or may not mean for that, if it is the right for a person to own their own likeness, and what it means to have a deep fake and what that means in the world. My hope in sharing this conversation is that you will get just a little bit of what I've gotten out of my friendship with Killian, along with sparking the minds of the ones that will change the world. Just a little idea and maybe just a laugh. I gotta remind you, as this is YouTube and it is an algorithm, it does take a lot to produce this along with my other YouTube channel. So I want to remind everybody to like, subscribe, and comment with your thoughts after the conversation down below. It helps a lot, it means a lot, and I want to thank you. And we are going to talk about the evolving world of creativity and the way artificial intelligence is changing the world. Unlike NFTs of last year, this hype actually may be real.
Hey, NFTs are at an all-time low right now. It's time to buy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Seriously.
Because people will have the
You
novelty.
even mention NFTs now, and people jump down your throat. But the thing is about it from like a creator standpoint is like, how are you supposed to own anything in this new age? Like everything else, it's going to go in cycle. I lost money with FTX as well. Sam Bankman-Fried can kiss my ass. That interview, that guy that wrote the book about Sam Bankman-Fried, and like, while he was writing the book, he got arrested and the whole happened. And then he continued. Yeah, it was on 60 Minutes like 2 days ago.
No, I didn't even know they already had a book out on it.
Dude, yeah. Well, he was coming out with the book like before it happened. But he like became like best buddies with him and like followed him around. Sam Bankman-Fried. They have like videos of Sam Bankman-Fried just like he's like shaking and just like lying to the guy
because he already knows.
Yeah, I guess like in hindsight. But what's weird about it is like you would think that this happens like when he's like 75% done with the book, and you would think that this would make a great story, right? You would change the book, and the ending would be like, well, like I guess it was all false, and like this guy isn't basically hurt everything he was about, but he didn't, and like the whole interview is basically just like, for lack of a better word, sucking off Sam Bankman-Fried.
Oh yeah.
And
he's this great, honest guy.
Like, yeah. He's like, I think he was one of the most honest people I ever know. And then meanwhile, like Sam Bankman-Fried is quoted of saying that I think that a lot of the things I do are like not real, and I don't know if I feel emotions like regular people. So he's like almost admitting that he's a narcissist. And meanwhile, this guy writing the book is like, he's the most honest guy I've ever met. Yeah. But what irritated me about it was he was like, yeah, they're going to throw him in jail because he took a bunch of like wealthy people's money and stuff. And it's like, dude, no. Like I'm poor as dirt, dude. And like I lost money in it.
Yeah,
and
there's a whole range.
I have a bunch of friends that had like, some of my good friends also had more money in it than I did. And like, and one day, when I found out about the news, I was on my way to run the bank. Just like everybody else, I was going to jump in and get my money back. But I go to withdraw, and it's like error. And then like an hour later, I couldn't even get into the site.
Right.
Well,
I was into crypto too, and I had family members posting that aren't quite familiar with how it even works. In their defense, I mean, like, it's to be wary of something like that is, that's pretty logical. But at the same time, they're like, this is why, crypto is just a big scam and all this other stuff. And it's like, well, it can be. But I mean, if we're going to move to like a digital based currency anyway, I mean, it's not like paper money. That's a real thing. But it's like, but what is it really worth ultimately, other than like in an end of the world situation? Like maybe you could start a fire with it.
I think if a lot of people understood it, but like for my dad, he's always been the person that's like, don't ever let them take cash away. Don't ever let it be a credit system. And he was really against NFT. Well, he didn't even know what NFTs were, but he was really against crypto until I talked to him about, what Bitcoin was.
Right.
And then he was like, once he got it, he was like, oh yeah, that needs to be the future. Like that's the only way. And he became a pretty, strong believer in it. So I think it is a lack of knowledge. And, and then there's the whole conspiracy that people say that Sam Bankman-Fried was, on the inside, but I don't think anybody on the inside would willingly go to prison.
Right.
Unless he believed so much in federal control over money that he was willing to sacrifice himself. But
right, I don't think he was that dogmatic behind whatever it would have been that he might have been part of. It's probably just you're gonna get money from this, and here you go, and you're the guy.
Dude, and when you hear about how crazy it was, I've never been in those types of situations, but I've been with people that you would never suspect on how dysfunctional it all is, and how you always think that because somebody has a certain reputation and a certain financial status in their life that they're credible, and that
right.
and that they're law abiding, and that they're they didn't even have a head of the board. They were basically running it day by day, and he was and he was paying attention to what he was paying attention to, and they were all separated doing different aspects of the business, not really watching each other. I mean, that's what it sounds like. I guess we'll see with the court case. When did that start 2 days ago? But
I haven't followed up on it in weeks. Last I heard, he was doing house arrest at his parents' house in Florida, or wherever the heck that was.
So what in general is your thoughts about artificial intelligence?
Gosh, it's such an advent right now. Obviously, there's both good and bad, potential for it. I really focus on the good, but that's kind of subjective. I mean, my first thought really is I really don't like bureaucracy. And I'm thinking always of when it comes tax season, how could we streamline this process, or anytime you have to deal with the government, assuming we get it without it trying to steal money from us, or without it taking over the world just for this instance, if we could install or institute artificial intelligence in these programs, the good part of that would be, you're not going to have to deal with your taxes as much because it'll already know. The bad part is it'll already know. And,
right. That was exactly what I was about to say.
You bought that candy bar that one time, and and it's okay, here we go. Yeah. I mean, I did my taxes last year, and I always end up paying, but there was a mistake. I paid everything I was supposed to, but then months later I get this letter from the IRS, and they're like, you owe $8. I'm like, for real? So I sent them $20, and then they had to send me a check back in change because I'm just so petty like that. And I still haven't even cashed that check, but I should. But that's one thing. The other thing is, in terms of entertainment and things like that, we're dealing with those writer strikes, and they're using Tom Cruise's likeness.
Well,
not Tom Cruise. Yeah.
Yeah, well, everybody's likeness. Tom Cruise is one of them.
Well,
there's fake Tom Cruise. That's literally a YouTube channel.
Right. I've seen that. Yeah. But I'm talking about what's his name? Forrest Gump.
Oh yeah, Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
for scam. They just came out that Mr. Beast is one of them now too.
Oh really?
Yeah. And he's like, click on this link and you'll win. Whatever. I can't remember what it was, but it looks like him. It sounds like him.
I think it's a great tool.
I think you or I would be able to tell.
Right.
But
well, there's tricks, and I think they'll perfect it pretty soon. But you can see the eyes have a constant static reflection to it, and but there's certain things. There's one this guy, and it kind of broke my heart because I really thought he was legit. But he's the Chinese Elon Musk, and he looks just like Elon Musk. But I'm pretty sure he's a deep fake because he just.
Really, I have seen that. Yeah.
And he looks like he could just be like Elon Musk's illegitimate Chinese kid or something. But yeah, I just saw a video where he's doing something and he's way too close to the camera, and I'm like, oh no, it's a deep fake. And this is on TikTok, and I was looking at the comments.
It could be real and it's a deep fake.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe he just looks like him, and then he also used the deep fake mask or something. But so ultimately, I think if they could help the people a lot better, just get rid of the lethargy of how bureaucracy operates, that would be a big one. And then on the other side of things, in terms of security, now we're getting into quantum security and things like this. The bar just gets raising and raising. So once you have something no human it would take them 1,000,000 years to do this. Well, if you have a quantum-backed AI that's just it's like child's play. But in the same sense, it's a double-edged sword because you have the offensive security as well as the defensive security backed by both machines. It's just going to be. It's ridiculous. It kind of reminds me of that Looney Tunes where they pull out the gun and then they pull out the missile launcher and they pull out the nuke and it just gets
bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Well, like, I mean, we were talking about why I use Obsidian, right? I use Notion, and Notion's convenient. And I actually, last night after we were texting, I went on this crazy rabbit hole just trying to find out how much does Notion slash also Google like scrape out of my Word documents to train their AI. And like they know so much about us already. They're tracking us with the phone. But like I have like this horrible and this is really like who the fuck am I? Like to even think this. I'm gonna pre-off what I'm about to say with that. Like who the fuck am I to think that this is even like a problem for me? But like what if like I come up with like this super creative idea that no one else on the planet has heard of, and I write it down in a Google Doc or on Notion, and then that scraped, and then somebody makes like a very like, you know, not even similar, but similar enough where like it triggers Google, you know, Bard to put a prompt that gives somebody else my creative idea.
Right.
And like, and then it, you know, and then like everybody, and you would never know, I would never know. Right. It'd be slightly different because the way AI works, you know, taking all this data and putting it together, but it would be enough alike where my idea would no longer be valid.
Right.
And like, and the guy that did the prompt would legitimately believe that it was his because the prompt that he wrote was enough like it where like AI just brought it to that next level. It just happened to be data that was scraped from mine.
Right.
And that makes me paranoid as dude.
Right, exactly.
And it's not even, you know, like, who am I to think that I'm going to come up with something like that? But it's also, like, just the principle of the matter.
Exactly.
Like,
besides, like, constitutional privacy rights and things like that.
Right.
I mean, like, you're starting to deal with the market and
I mean, to me, like, that's already gone.
Well, right, yeah. It's like whenever I invented the PlayStation 1 screen thing. Do you remember?
Yeah.
The next day it was released.
Right. Or Joe C's rap verse. I swear to God, we said that like 6 months before it came out. People aren't going to know what the heck we're talking about. Swear to God, Joe C. You hear me?
He was already on to that.
Kid Rock knows. Yeah. Art used to live behind us here on Woodby Island. Yeah. That's right.
He's all off in the Bahamas right now.
That's right.
Stupid kid.
He copied 12-year-olds' ideas. Yeah. It's pathetic, dude. Come up with your own stuff. I mean, I guess it is smart to steal from 12-year-olds to sell to 12-year-olds because that's pretty much the market they were selling to. That's why we were listening to it. Yeah. Like, yeah, there's it's a lot of crazy. One of the things I think about as a creator too is like, and it's not there yet. People and before I get into that, and it's even in my docs right here. And by docs, I mean Obsidian because it's private. Like NFTs, right? And NFTs are great and have a lot of good and bad to them, and so does artificial intelligence, right? And everything's like a knife. You can cut your food or you can cut your friend, right? Everything in the world, like every tool is like that. Right. Businesses, and you can see this, in AI because AI is like what they wanted NFTs to be. They saw the NFTs and they were like, this is the next thing. Everybody from Microsoft to Square Enix, like every video game, every market, Facebook was jumping in. NFTs are the future.
Right, I remember
and
that.
And then it crashed, and then like nobody talks about it anymore.
Right.
Like it's not going to be like in Final Fantasy 14 because that's like what I was playing at the time, and everybody was pissed. But they were going to bring it anyway. Like the Square Enix CEO was like, you know. So now artificial intelligence, right? And like NFTs are still a thing. They're on all-time low, but like they're still just as good and bad as they ever have been. And artificial intelligence likewise. So like companies jump on this and they say, this is amazing. Like it can do all these things. You're not going to have to edit anything anymore. And as a video editor, right? Like, yeah, when I first started video editing just a couple of years ago, I had to rotoscope. Go look up what rotoscoping is. It's a pain in the... Now you just like click a button, and if you have a good enough GPU, it's and you can download it to, you know, upload it to like Runway, or I think Canva's getting it in there now. I've tried the Canva one; it doesn't work very well, by the way. It's basically like you have a green screen. However, there's no AI yet that can edit like me, and I'm not like a Hollywood editor or anything. I'm amateur. I'm making YouTube videos, right? And I like to think of myself pretty good, but like there's people that are way better than me, and I'm way better than like anything artificial intelligence can do so far, but it has made my life easier. But these companies jump on that and be like, now you can click one button and it's like all, you know, done for you. And they, you know, and it's like, really though?
There's some pretty helpful plugins that for instance, like it takes it'll go through and find, and a program could have done this without the backing of artificial intelligence, but it's a lot easier.
It was algorithms, right? We've had algorithms. I mean, like OpenAI was developing their product for like 10, 15 years now. They got to a point where they had a breakthrough. And then they believe because the market, right? The market has a lot to do with it, and them gaining stock and how much of an explosion, $13 billion for Microsoft. They want to assume, and all these companies do, want to assume that there's going to be breakthrough. But even Mark Zuckerberg was one that I heard this from originally, and I completely agree with, is if you look at history, like, yeah, that sometimes happens, but usually breakthroughs have a 5 to 10 year period before there's another breakthrough. Like in computing is slowed down. Like, yeah, a computer today is way better than a computer 5 years ago, but the one from 5 years ago is like so much better than 5 years before that.
Right.
Right,
exactly. With AI, we're really just seeing the beginning of it. And I think also we're at a weird point where people want to get a hard grasp on the reins with AI at the point it's already at. But it's so helpful already. I mean, for instance, like if you were to write a computer program, you don't want to necessarily rely completely on AI if you had a question like, oh, give me something that will assist in this and then do this. And then even if you wanted to do graphics, like I want it to look like this, you're still probably going to have to go through and trim it up a little bit and fix some things. You're going to come up with some errors. If you ask it questions about history, sometimes it
makes mistakes.
It does make
mistakes. It's been incredible.
Right.
Like going like this is real. Like I'm not saying it's not real. Like I use it, and I think, and like I was talking about in the last podcast, it's the equivalent of when we were kids and the internet revolution happened, Yahoo and Amazon, and like Yahoo died, but all these other companies, Microsoft's one of the biggest, Apple, everything went to the top. That we are in a similar cycle right now of change, and we've made that leap. But the companies will lead you to believe that we're 10 years from now, or that 10 years from now, and maybe it could do that. When I first started playing around with it, it was like amazing. But once I got used to it, it's like, I don't know, maybe I'm just harder to impress now.
Right, because now you're starting to realize, it's limitations.
Right.
Let alone limitations that were put in place from the developers.
Right.
Like you have this free API and everything, but there's still, there's people that are making a more free artificial intelligence, and there comes the argument with safety and things like that, like
distribution of power. I have it written down. And that's one thing I really like about Llama is it's open source. So theoretically, I don't have the money to do it, but theoretically, I can, even with the computer I got, I can download Llama and figure out how to run it. I don't know how, but if you had $50,000, $100,000 to start, building a data center in your garage, you can start building it. But right now, they've been talking about they haven't admitted it at OpenAI, but there's limitations to prompts even for paying customers on ChatGPT 4, and Claude is open about it, Claude 2, which is my personal favorite of them. They limit it because they have so many users. But people that have access to the real API, the people that are on ChatGPT 5 with no limitations, the things blurting out racist whatever and saying whatever, that's significantly more powerful than anything that we could possibly get our hands on.
Right.
And think about if you had what we have now 5 years ago or even last year, and nobody else did.
Yeah, you'd be a millionaire.
Yeah. Just the advantages are tremendous.
For instance, I haven't used OpenAI in weeks, or ChatGPT 4 or any of them in weeks. But, obviously I was just logging into the server, and what is it? You get 30 or 15 prompts before, okay, you're done, sit down,
Right, it's 30. Yeah.
Our server's getting hot because of you, or, and now, there's times, because there's so many more people using it, there's times I'll try to log in. They're like, oh, could you try back in a minute? So I'm waiting for it to become more mainstreamed and where it's way more supported infrastructure wise to the point where we're not going to have that kind of issue. But at this point, it's like it's timeshare with a genie. That's really the way I look at it. I'm like, I can't complain.
Well, what I do is I jump. I have like Claude, Bard, and GPT all open, and I'll just like prompt, and then I'll get like half a prompt, and I'll take like the output of that and bring it into the next, and like give it another prompt, and it's like. And then I'll usually go paragraph by paragraph, while also making my own writing, and it's a skill in its own, right? It doesn't just like give you can't just like you might be able to trick a high school teacher. Anybody like from our generation or younger is going to know like how well of a prompt you made and how much effort you put into it. I still do my like the mass majority of like my other channels videos. I write the entire thing, and then like maybe if like I'm having a problem with like phrasing, I take that in. It's incredible I can do that. Okay, we get to a point where like you don't need a video editor anymore. All this like becomes true. And by the way, with Midjourney makes beautiful art, but it's super hard to make it like exactly what you saw in your brain. So like that's a thing, right? And I think generative fill and Photoshop is a much better implementation, but even that has its limitations of like how you can pinpoint it. In 20 years, 30 years, next year, however fast it goes. Okay, art for art's sake, right? But now that you've like made the limitations of art like so low that all AI's gotten so good that you can like make a prompt and it will just like change the prompt into a good prompt, and then it like puts out like maybe it's not exactly what you wanted, but it looks professional and it looks identical to something you'd see on a movie. It will be discouraging. Like why am I even making art? Like, and is there anybody besides maybe like the because like once AI gets good enough to like maintain itself, like you're gonna have like very little amount of people that will have to like be in charge of that,
right?
And it's gonna be real interesting.
We're in this like I was saying earlier, they want to try and regulate it right now. Let's slow down, figure everything out. But I think what we really need to do, because as humans and as in the tech world, what we do is we develop this all new cool thing, and then we ramp up from that next year and make a way better thing. Innovation through limitation can actually lead you to some really cool stuff. So like back in the day, the video game consoles going from the NES to the Super Nintendo, I mean, that was a huge jump, but they were utilizing everything about that. Right. And game developers really had to work really hard. Nowadays, they're just given this powerful engine, and they have all these crappy assets, and then they just throw this game together that's just so bloaty. But I think what we need to do is pause and be like, how can we make this a more efficient system? And before we implement AI into this like whole mother load, and because it's going to be implemented in every game. Every AI is going to be real.
I'm really looking forward to that. Me too. It's going to be so dope.
But I really think we should have it, make our code more concise, offer a recommendation for like how can we make this process work better within the game. And how can we actually make a framework for that creates kind of a standard?
Is the AI doing what human is doing? Like a human like watches Jurassic Park, and then they watch Alien, and then they like imagine like a new movie out of that, right? And it's like becomes an original idea out of two ideas. And like AI arguably does the same thing, but it's like actually stealing both things and like putting it together, and then like, I don't know how it all works, but AI making creative stuff. Like, at what point are you stealing? I mean, it's up in the air. It's in court. A bunch of stuff is in court.
I think that's going to be a really hard one to truly win. I mean, if you look at just lawsuits and just in music in general, like what we were talking about earlier, it's so hard to win a music lawsuit. You could steal, and you see this all the time. All these people are stealing almost verbatim the actual song, and maybe they'll just recreate it themselves, but it's got the tempo, key, everything that's going to be the same, but then they'll be like, oh no, we put this like phaser on it, and then we also changed the pitch half a semitone or something, and they get away with it. And then obviously
it depends who's suing.
Well, that, and it also depends on if the judge is a music theory minor, you know what I mean, like a major in law and then a minor in music theory. I mean, like, it's so specific,
right? And
I've seen lawsuits just get thrown out or just outright lost.
Right. Well, stuff in Midjourney has been known to have the Getty logo in the bottom. So.
Oh, right. I have seen that. I've seen that. It's like, okay, come on. But I'd like to see the prompts for that too.
I would too,
You know,
yeah.
put the Getty images,
Right,
you know,
and
on the
then
bottom.
and then they share it on Facebook, and they're like, "Look at that!" Like,
But I mean, like, realistically, we know how it operates at this point. It probably pulled from a pool of stock images, and
right,
things like that.
and a lot of them came from Getty,
Right.
who used to be the bad guy, but they're still the bad guy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Take that.
the beautiful future of artificial intelligence. Just like I was saying, I used to rotoscope. Now I use Magic Mask and DaVinci Resolve, right? And there's Runway, and it's like that was like not creative. Like rotoscoping's not creative.
Right.
Like you would do a bad job because you were in a hurry and it was so freaking tedious. Mm-hmm. And now Magic Mask is like.
I mean, if you think about some of those things, like some of the image generator things, you're looking at maybe dozens or hundreds before you pick 3 that are really kind of close to what you had requested in the first place. So it does take skill to try and trick it or figure out ways to make it do it. Do it again, but don't show any hands because you're awful at making hands. You know? And sometimes you get a good hand, but then there's like this weird.
I've gotten tons of stuff that was like so close to what I wanted, but the hand had like 7 and like a finger's like sticking up or something.
Yeah.
And then I try to like blend it with like another picture that like is copywritten, that I screenshotted from like Google Images, and what's really cool is like I did one with an alien and I actually like hand drew it, and I am not a good hand drawer, and I blended it. And it looked like my drawing, but it was like what I actually wanted to draw, more or less.
Right.
Like as time goes on, it's gonna get harder and harder. Because like I was saying, like a good prompt to me is like getting what you want, more or less, right? And then like and especially like using different ones, like you can use Midjourney to get it to look mostly what you want with a good prompt, and then you bring it into Photoshop and then you change it up a bit to make it more like you want. But like Midjourney is very capable of you just typing in zebra in Africa in the savannah, and like it'll pop out 4 different styles of zebras and they all look great.
Right.
And then you could just be like, yeah, that's the one I wanted.
Yeah, I made that.
Yeah, I made that. Like, and sell it. And I don't know. I don't know if there's anything wrong with that, but it will be harder to distinguish, skill and who's a professional when you talk about creative things. Like right now, like artificial intelligent music, like you're talking, like have you seen these like Kanye West versus Eminem?
They're great. I love them.
Dude, me too. I love
them.
them too. And you know what's crazy is I watched the making on how they did like one of the first famous ones anyway, and like that took a lot of effort. It was probably more effort to do that than them just like make a song. And I'm sure it got more popularity because it sounds like Kanye West and Eminem.
Yeah.
But like that, they spent like a long time doing that. But even since then, that was like 2 months ago or something, it's gotten easier and better, and more people have tried to replicate it. Some of them are better than others, but some of them are like indistinguishable.
Right. I mean, at this point, like if you have like a grandma on the internet, like for instance, my grandma, I could make something out of the AI, show it to her. I could like gaslight my own grandma with AI propaganda, and she would believe it. She'd be running for the hills or whatever.
Right. Right.
So it's kind of crazy because you got this massive.
And that's really scary because you wouldn't do that to your grandma, but.
Well, right. But I'm just saying, for instance, just as her as an example, because I've seen her share things on social media, and I'm like, Grandma, this is so fake. People. I have to tell her, I'm like, oh man, you're gonna fall for this, and they're already falling for stuff like, this. I met this lady like a couple years ago, and she was literally telling me, she's like, oh, I have this online boyfriend. He's a Saudi prince. I'm like, oh my God.
I had a roommate.
Here we go. I'm like, I'm telling you right now, I educated her. I'm like, look at all these instances of these people. And I'm showing her on the phone, and she was so in denial. I'm like, how'd you give her? She's like, I already given him $1,800. Let me guess, he's locked out of his funds, and you need to. I was like, yeah.
Wow. This is a really common problem.
And so that was before the advent of AI kind of mainstreaming. And now, just with this, it's just like,
let's FaceTime.
Yeah.
And now they can.
See, it's proof.
Right, yeah.
Even with just CG, just like crappy CG, it's like almost like their brains aren't wired to see computer graphics.
Well, that goes back to what I was saying about like, we are our parents' age, right? We're a little younger, to be fair. But like when the internet revolution happened, our generation, there's going to be people that watch this channel and us that like are paying attention, and we must evolve. No matter if we like it or not, it's here.
Right.
And as a video editor, there's parts of that I'm really excited about, and there's parts of that I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I'm out of the job. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds, but it's either even just knowing what's going on in the world. You're going to have to follow. You're going to have to learn this stuff. At least learn to spot it and know what it is. If not, learn how to use it. If you had today's technology, even a year ago or 3 years ago, you'd be a super.
Right.
Like, there's going to be, like, half of our generation not into AI. I hate AI. It's blah, 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 and, like, not want to change. Guess what? They're not going to have that superpower. They're not going to even know how to spot that superpower. And that's going to leave them not only, like, lacking in the amount of like work they can do in the superpower of it, but like also just knowing how the world works and like not being able to like the version of that Saudi prince, right? If you're not following AI and like how good it gets by the time you're 60, like you're not going to know, you know, the 2040 version of the Saudi prince and how to spot it.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. And I also think that these big companies, Apple, Microsoft, Google, they're going to implement, like I'm waiting for Siri to be AI backed. Siri seems just so bad now.
Yeah.
After AI, I'm like, Siri, I just asked this
Google
basic
Assistant,
question.
Google Assistant's just got it.
Yeah, well, I'm
still
waiting for it to be, for it to all get better and for it to all be implemented. We're on the advent of smart TVs and all this other stuff, which is kind of old tech now. We're going to have AI driven stuff, you know, I mean, and it's still all these weird quirky ways of doing it. You know, you have a camera that looks into your fridge and tells you that you need to buy mustard.
It's the fun period.
Right.
It's like back when smartphones first came out before the iPhone, right? And like we had like the first phones on the internet, the Blackberries, and we had like flip phones.
And it was so slow and it would charge you like a third of a minute or whatever.
Yeah, to get a ringtone.
Yeah. You're like, I just put $20 in and now I'm like, I just took so long to get on the internet and it's gone. Half my money's gone.
Yeah. But like it was fun because like all the different models, all the different, like they didn't know what a smartphone was going to look like.
Right.
Even a little bit after the iPhone. Like within the, you know, the iPhone changed the game. But we had so many different variations of what phones look like.
Well, like peak aesthetic, I think was like before the iPhone was like the Motorola Razr.
Yeah,
that
Motorola
was so
Razr.
cool. And I bought one.
And the BlackBerry, the first few Blackberries.
But I bought a Razr after wanting one for so long, and then I had it, and then I was like, I had to like buyer's remorse and sent it back.
I had a Razr. Yeah. I was all about it.
Yeah, but it was like it was like a status. I mean, like nowadays, everybody's got.
Well, iPhone's sort of a status now.
Right, it is. But I mean, most people have cases on it and stuff. But you can tell it's an iPhone.
Yeah.
You know? But I mean, it's so mainstream.
Which is so bizarre to me because like the Galaxy costs more, and like Apple is the one not supporting RTS.
Right.
Which is basically iMessage for everybody else. I might actually go back now that the 15 has USB-C, which is like actually the main reason I left.
Right.
And
well, we can thank France for that.
Yeah. What do you mean? It's innovation.
Yeah.
Apple.
Look what we decided to do.
I'm surprised they didn't. I was watching the keynote and I was like, well, it's coming, and it never did. Yeah. Like they just didn't talk about it really. Like they talked about like some cool capability. Like I'm really excited, you know, as somebody that does video, is like you can record ProRes out of your phone to like all cameras should do that.
Right.
Like one of the only cameras that even can do that, including RED cameras, by the way, is for you know, even the most expensive cameras can't do that. Like Panasonic S5 Mark II X, mouthful, is one of the only cameras, especially in the lower price range, that can. But RED cameras can't. None of the Sony cameras can. I don't even think the Venice can. It's ridiculous. But yet the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max can, and in ProRes.
Well, those companies, they're just so focused on, like, for example, like a Ferrari or Lamborghini. I just saw this TikTok of this guy being like, why would a millionaire who bought your car, he's sitting in one, care about X Siri radio or whatever it's called, the Sirius radio? And it's telling him like, oh, don't forget to renew your Sirius radio. And he's like, I've never even used this. This is part of the stock vehicle. And it's almost like, you know, like, yeah, they're focused on this model that they're using, and then they're implementing it. And they're like, well, this is just kind of, you know, the demographic has changed because now you got all these like millionaire 20-year-olds and stuff that are buying these cars. And now they're like, oh, maybe we have to focus on this. Because before it was just like older tech and oil guys that own these things. And they're like, oh yeah, this is cream of the crop, you know. And it's even got my little rotary dial phone over here too, you know. And
well, Tesla changed the game too in the car
really
world. Once you've been in a Tesla and you go to a higher end car and it looks like you're back in the 90s, you're like, I don't know a lot about cars, but I know that there's some higher end cars that don't let you use, Android Autoplay or Apple, whatever it is.
Right.
With all this craziness and like copyright, should it be that like when you are born, the doctor like gives a certificate to your parents that like they own the likeness of this new child, and then when you turn 18, your parents like give you a certificate that says you own your own likeness, and like that gets into like, should Eminem, I know there has been artists that have come out and been like, you can use my likeness, but you have to pay me a royalty, but they had to go through the process of actually like buying their own rights, something that's never been on the table before.
Right.
Like, cause it's not about their work, it's like their likeness.
Right.
Like that they're like an animated character, like, Disney owns Mickey Mouse. This artist like now owns their own likeness. But shouldn't that just like be default,
I feel like that's going to be one of the hardest lawsuits to finish up or wrap up. Obviously, the quick answer would be to just say, yeah, you own your own likeness. But then there's people that think it'll change the environment for how people sign a contract. It may just come to be that if they do say you own your own likeness, the second, you probably won't get the job unless you sign this contract that says, long after you die, we're going to use Carrie Fisher's face for whatever. And I was looking the other day, I was at the gas station, I see the little beef jerky stick with what Macho Man on it. And I'm like, man, he's been dead for however long.
Right.
But it was probably in his contract, like long after you die, and he probably didn't care.
Right, but also like that's the Macho Man. It gets real complex because like Disney owns Captain Jack Sparrow.
Right.
Right. But like they can't just like, I mean, maybe they can. Like right now, I guess anybody can, right? Named Johnny Depp, looks like Johnny Depp, acts like Johnny Depp. Now he's a deep fake.
Right.
Saying whatever they want him to say. Like,
yeah, Pirates 10.
It needs to be like a fundamental change in society.
Well, as soon as Johnny Depp decides to make the pirate movie, where he dresses up like a fucking pirate, same kind of attitude and everything, that one, I guarantee Disney would
sue him.
Would sue the hell out of him. But I mean, we can only see. They've both got teams of lawyers and whatnot, but I guarantee.
But like,
Disney
what about like
that.
Back to like the deep fake of Kanye West and Eminem?
Right.
Which and the music industry is so, about like copy over any other industry. I mean, they're all about it, but like that industry in particular is all about copyright. Like,
right.
I mean, even with fair use, you can use fair use, like by the law you used fair use, but like they're still gonna come after you.
Yeah.
Like it's the only thing you really have to worry about on YouTube is music. But yet, to my knowledge, none of those deepfakes have had any issues at all. Even though like it's labeled Kanye West versus Eminem, sounds like them. It's using their likeness.
When they'll just give him a mole and say, "Oh, it's not him," some sort of slight change to their face or something.
But what's fair though? Like I mean, if like you were to write the law, like what would be fair?
Right. That's still a tough call. Yeah. And then you're dealing with like a judicial.
I mean, how would you feel if somebody did it to you?
Well, I mean, if they're making for some reason millions of dollars off of my nobody face, I'd be like, hey, whoa.
But what if you were famous? I mean, maybe someday you are.
Well, that's still a tough call, And I think that we're going to start seeing more lawsuits right now. It's just going to overwhelm the system.
So go back to like, what if they made your face famous? Now every time you go outside, like you're not getting paid, right? But they're using like I take a picture, I scan your ass while you're asleep,
Some LiDAR thing.
Yeah, you're sleeping on the couch. I scan your ass. I make a bunch of deep fakes, and then I like make you rap like Eminem or something. Right. You get like your likeness gets famous, but you don't get famous, right? Like I made the work, right? I'm the one like writing. You didn't even know about it until like somebody comes up to you in a Walmart parking lot wanting your autograph and like,
hey, it's Doofy.
yeah, exactly. It's Doofy.
I'm like, what?
Everything's the same, but you don't have the red nose.
Well, I'd be more scared of the inverse of that, whereas now you can sue me for having my own face. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it gets to that. It's getting so out there and weird.
Yeah, I scan your face. I make Doofy out of you,
Yeah.
exactly like you in every way. You start getting harassed, and then like because you don't sign autographs all day or whatever I don't like, and then I sue you for defamation of Doofy. Now you have to get plastic surgery,
Right?
Court-ordered plastic surgery. You know, like, your birth has been infringing on my copyright.
But when they make the Netflix series about me and they interview me, I'll get some money from that.
Yeah, you might. Not as much money
But
as
I'm like
I'll get from
so
my
different
scan.
looking and like, and you just harass me and make a new one. I'm like,
all about how that's all fake and like we're really the victim.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, think about like what's going on, like you brought up, you know, with Tom Hanks and now with Mr. Beast. I've seen Joe Rogan's like one of the first ones that popped up with like the deep fakes, and at least most of Joe Rogan, at least the ones I've seen, are mostly positive, but still he's not getting paid for that. He's saying things that he otherwise wouldn't. A lot of those are him endorsing brands that he never would endorse. It looks like his podcast. There might be slight dip, but everybody that sees it's like that's Joe Rogan. Like
Right.
we can, it sounds like him, it looks like him. It's wild, dude. And then like now people are literally getting scammed from somebody that looks like Mr. Beast
Right.
or Tom Hanks. They're clicking on the link, they're buying something, their credit card gets stolen. My mom, like, people that like fell behind, maybe they never will understand that was not Tom Hanks.
Right.
Like, Tom Hanks scammed them, but the real Tom Hanks had nothing to do with it. I mean, what? That's crazy. And obviously, like, that's an extreme case, and because they're scamming, that is illegal.
Right.
Like, that's fraud. But what if they're just selling vitamins,
Right.
And they're
They
just
have a
like,
legitimate
I love
business,
Tom
but
Hanks.
it's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
I think that the only way that it will be taken as seriously, because like defamation laws,
It's going to have to get to that point.
I think what would have to get to, but you have to deal with this. I'll get to it first though. If somebody made a deep fake of the president saying something that like really scared people, like
It's already happened.
right? But I mean, like something that would pass through the filters of what's legal and stuff. Especially with the climate we're in right now. I mean,
Right.
it could be World War III tomorrow or something.
Right.
Right now would be the time to have Biden say something in a deep fake.
Right.
Which
I mean, people are trying.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's how. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to get into politics, but
Right,
you'd
right.
know it was a deep fake,
right. But they would have to make it so good, like I don't know, dude.
Have them stumble over.
I feel like there has been things with like not just like all sorts of people. I mean, there are people falling for the Mr. Beast thing.
Yeah.
There are people that see those fakes of Joe Rogan and think they're real. You see that real fast on TikTok. Maybe you don't know about this stuff as much.
Right.
Or maybe even you do and you just flip past it and you heard something Joe Rogan said, you may or may not agree with it. An argument for it is like, Kellogg's owns Tony the Tiger. Another cereal, like they have like, I've seen weird, like Kevin the Tiger or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
The generic stuff. It's like obviously a ripoff of Tony the Tiger, but it's not Tony the Tiger.
Right.
But like right now with AI and copyright doesn't lead to people. I mean, this is a serious problem, right? Yeah. So now people are almost like put in the same category as cartoon spokes
right.
characters.
It would be unstoppable because whoever would be putting this stuff out, maybe it gets taken down after 5 minutes, but like you're saying, you're going to see it first. They'd have all these burner accounts or whatever.
Right. Well, that's also assuming that it's bad.
Right.
Like that stuff on TikTok's not getting taken down. There's no laws against making a fake Kanye West.
Right.
Like you can't copy his brand. You can't like come out with a clothesline that's copying his clothes because he has copyrights of that. But he doesn't own his own likeness in the same way.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it'd almost be like you can like I don't know, it's easier to copy Marshall Mathers than like Slim Shady or Eminem because Aftermath Shady Records like owns the likeness of that in some way. But like if you say Marshall Mathers, I doubt there's a copyright. Maybe you could argue like you'd have to have a really good lawyer. Maybe that will be the solution at some point. There'll be a big enough case with somebody with enough funding that could argue that like your birth certificate is saying that you own yourself. Like,
right. Well, then you get all those sovereign citizen people that are like, oh, I own my likeness. I am this name, but not this name, kind of thing. I'm just me. I'm a free citizen. But,
right.
And until there's a big case like Doofy v. Sean or whatever it comes to, and then I win as Doofy, or
right.
for example, then
yeah,
then
and who knows who will win?
Right.
Because like the way the climate, the way it's set up for no AI, for this not being possible, is that like I create a character that's sort of like maybe that's improv, maybe that's like something South Park makes fun of people, right?
Right.
But those are like obviously not them. I'm a creator. I fake Kanye West, so now I own fake Kanye West. I own fake, what about like the fake Tom Cruise guy?
Yeah, because he's making lots of money.
Yeah, well, he's also come out and said that if Tom Cruise asks, like he's a nice guy, right? He's on several podcasts saying that if Tom Cruise ever asked him to stop doing that, he would.
Yeah, but he never does anything like outside of the bounds of like offensive. You know what I mean?
Right. It's all like very.
It's like him in his kitchen, just looking like Tom Cruise.
Yeah, but the people that are doing Mr. Beast and Joe Rogan are.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen some crazy ones. I'm like, wow, how is this up? And it's got like 30,000 likes. Yeah. And how long did that take for that to happen? Right. And Joe Rogan's seen them.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they all have. I mean, think about Tom Hanks, dude. Somebody like
day one, he was like, no.
Yeah, I bet.
So I just read about that like yesterday.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, I'd like to. I haven't looked into that.
I saw a quick clip of it. I'm like, it really looks like Tom Hanks. I could see where he'd be pissed. But,
oh yeah. He's also somebody that's like from the older generation, so I wonder how much he like. It's gonna take maybe somebody like Tom Hanks is the one that's gonna maybe
that could nip it in the bud.
Yeah, nip it. Yeah, I for one would like as much as I'm on the internet, and I wouldn't care if South Park made fun of me. I'd be flattered, know. Like with the copyright thing, it'd be like almost like the principle of the matter. Like at least it's a legal thing. Right. At least I technically own myself. I own my own likeness, whatever that means. And that's debatable what it means because people evolve. So like maybe you'd have to like revise your copyright. Every 10 years you have to revise it for your new personality. They scan your brain. So
yeah, but with the Tom Hanks thing, he addressed it really quick. And obviously it's either just conspiracy theory. What if he was in on it just to nip it in the bud? Create an issue out of nowhere just to address it.
I would hope he would. I would be thankful if that came out.
Right. But on the other note, it's like, if we boil it down to what truly is, they wanted to use his likeness and not have to pay him any money for it.
Right.
Which that to me
and that,
is like,
yeah, you nailed it.
So
that's exactly what it is.
That's wrong. And I mean, like,
it's wrong.
They're testing out the waters with Tom Hanks before they do some Tom Hanks is pretty big.
Yeah, Tom Hanks is kind of like the guy. I mean, they're doing it. I mean, like, I feel like it's almost the opposite of a lot of other things where like they've gone for the biggest first.
Right.
Like they're like, it was Donald Trump, then it was Joe Biden, Joe Rogan, Mr. Beast, Tom Hanks. And then like at some point, and this is the scary part, and this is copyright, because these are people that live in the public realm that deal with copyright, that respect that. But like, and even the people that are making those videos, that Eminem versus Kanye West, I mean, that was an art project in itself, right? And those are looking for clicks. But when the technology gets good enough to fake you and then scam your mom,
right?
Like that, like copyright don't matter because it's illegal already. Like,
right.
Yeah. That's when it trickles down, to people like us or people like the ones watching, like it's. Yeah.
Deep fake Mario and have Nintendo put an end to it all because they're
they're gonna get nuts.
They've been doing that forever. Like
they're gonna go Rambo.
People that make these ROM hack Pokemon games and stuff, and they're like, oh, they changed a little bit, and they're like, no, they shut it all.
NFTs. Back to the NFTs. They're very unpopular.
Oh right, yeah.
But like at least that's a way to tell. Like maybe everybody has their own NFT. They own their own likeness. They can represent themselves, so that like this is the real Mr. Beast. This is the real Joe Rogan. He's the only one that can stamp that approval somehow. Maybe he has a chip in his freaking hand. I don't want a chip in my hand, but some way to prove that, like, this came from the real guy. Like, they're going to figure out a way to fake that, too.
So hard to do it.
Yeah. It's crazy.
On the other side, though, man, some of them are so funny and so entertaining.
Oh, yeah.
And if you put some sort of paywall behind it, it's just going to kill it. Well, what I've already seen, like some of the in-game, I don't know what, they're playing like Call of Duty or something. They'll have like Obama and Biden and Trump all in like a team chat.
Yeah,
and it's just using their AI voices and stuff. It's so funny.
Yeah.
I love those. And if they ever put an end to that, then it's like, okay, well, how likely is it that Obama's like, go ahead, have me like go ranting on Modern Warfare?
No, that ain't gonna happen.
Right. In a cadence that would match like a kid.
Yeah.
And using terminology that's like used in the game today.
Yeah.
That they're not even aware of what it even means.
That might be parody.
Right. I feel like
it's almost makes, because there's like this thin line of like, that is like, to me that's so obviously not them,
Right.
even though it looks like them and acts like that's South Park stuff,
right, exactly,
with better graphics.
But to have their face animated saying
Right.
something.
But like the Joe Rogan or Mr. Beast, like actually trying to sell something.
Right, yeah.
Like even if that was behind a paywall and it was like a whole, South Park length episode that you had to pay for, you know that's not them. But like a fake Joe Rogan, and it's like fake his podcast.
With a fake real guest.
Right, with a fake, deep fake guest. Like, you might not know that that's, I feel like it's like okay if you know that it's not them, but if it's like they're advertising it as them, like a lot of these, deep fakes are.
Yeah, if they called it faux Mogan. You're going into it knowing it's not him.
Right.
Unless you jump in on a weird 30-second clip.
Right.
So that's...
That leads me right perfectly into the social. So now, everybody wants to be an influencer, right? So like... Facebook, Instagram, they have their prompt, they put it into the thing. Now they automate that. So like at some point, like all of social media is just going to be AIs talking to AIs.
Right.
There's not going to be, so like what is even the point of this? Like,
right.
Like right now we're not quite there, but like eventually, like when everybody's like learned this, and like anybody that's trying to do anything, like even with like your family and stuff, changing pictures, some of the new smartphone stuff, like rearranging, and it's like, it's like, I don't know, dude, like that's going to be like our waste electricity. Like they just have like AIs talking to AIs because everybody wants to be cool on social media.
Meanwhile, we're all
like,
just poor.
Well, meanwhile, we don't even care anymore because like it's just on automatic. Everything's freaking automated.
We're just in our like Wall-E chair, floating around. And...
Yeah. Well, I feel like we're like going into idiocracy if we're not already there, and then like that's Wall-E's the future.
Drinking Brondo.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.
That was cool.